Hello, hello. Let's do this. I'm very excited to be talking with you today. Um, and there's really two main things that we're going to be doing, and it's all there in the title. I want to talk to you first about the power of a beginner's mindset, and second, about the power of connecting that mindset into your body. So there's a reason that this episode is not called Embracing a Beginner's Mindset or Creating a Beginner's Mindset. It's embodying because there's something really powerful that happens when we take that beginner way of being and drop it into our body. Before I go straight to those two segments of today's podcast, I want to give you a ski vignette. And thank you to the many of you who wrote or called me after hearing me a few episodes ago talk about my experience learning to ski. That's something that I've been doing this winter, and um, and it's a perfect example for me of a place where I am embodying a beginner's mindset right now. Let me tell you about my recent experience on this thing called the whale humps. What are the whale humps? Well, the whale humps, for those of you who are not ski people, or maybe have just never heard the technical terms, the whale humps are not, you have downhill skiing, you're going down the hill. You may have heard of things called moguls, smaller bumps. The whale humps are, think of a whale hump rising from the ocean. So these rolling hills, one after the other, at least in the run that I did, where there were these things called whale humps. Now, the whale humps for me gave me a perfect chance to play with all the things that I've been learning in skiing. And the first two big steps for me in skiing were, one, do I actually understand the technique to do basic skiing in a safe way? And so it was things like, oh, I can learn how to turn and gain distinctions about what is an edge and how do I cut in to the with my ankles? How do I stand? What does it mean when I hear phrases like trust your edges or lean down the mountain? Like actually connecting intellectually to what's happening in my body. So all these distinctions I was learning, the next playground for me to put these technical distinctions to the test was to then advance to a steeper kind of hill and practice it there. So that's what I've been doing for many weeks now, usually twice a weekend, practicing these distinctions, playing and really having fun. Always knowing I'm up for a challenge. I'm um I'm learning. I'm learning as I go and having fun with it. And I am. And it's, sometimes it's really hard. I definitely fall. Uh, because I have the baseline of technical down, I trust myself more. I know I can't control what happens, but I trust myself more that I'm not afraid that I'm a danger to myself. I know enough that I can move safely. Okay, cue then a couple of weekends ago, this new thing called the whale humps. Okay, so now I've come down a run and I'm taking a new final pass because you can move down this one section of the mountain and then choose which pass you want to go to get down to the lodge. And I didn't know that I was moving on to whale humps, but that's where I was going. So I'm moving now into all these rolling hills. And what I noticed for myself is that as the friend I was doing this run with said, this is perfect. Because again, it's one rolling hill after the other, and they're short. I don't know, 15 feet down, not long. 15 feet back up. and there's other ways to get around them if you need. And she said, it's perfect because you can just go down the hill and then you have the hill going right back up to catch you. And I thought, okay, I'm understanding intellectually what she's saying to me. The strategy I took, however, was not to just let go down the hill and then let the hill catch me going up. It was use all this technique and kind of cut down the hill and cut down the hill and then let myself go back up and get myself to the top of the next one. And then kind of think I'm letting go, but then cut down to break the speed. And what I realized is that as I went down the whale humps, I came straight up against the truth that I was afraid to let go. I was afraid to go too fast. What happens if I go too fast? Will I fall? Can I control myself? Will I get hurt? Right? So now I'm in my head and I'm in fear, which is not a great place to be in when you have two metal sticks strapped to your feet going down snow on a mountain. So 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 what I did was the fear was there. So I cut and I used the techniques I knew how to do. I went back to my old way of doing things. Okay. What I then set out and what I've now been paying attention to, when I went to the mountain this weekend, I was met with then children getting sick. And so didn't do too much skiing, but I went in with the intention and I'm set, I'm clear. When I come back to the mountain, what I'm ready to do is focus on letting go, going fast, always still in what feels safe to me. Uh, and here's the thing, this is skiing, this is low risk, these are whale humps. It's also, I look to the rest of my life. Where else in my life am I afraid to let go? And I can think of a lot of places. I can think in my professional life. Where do I hold back? Where do I let things go a little slower because I'm not sure if I can keep up if I let it go faster? That's the beauty of going into a physical practice. It exposes things, often things that exist in other places, but when it's in your body, you can't hide it. It just shows up. And um, and so I want you to have that backdrop as I get into the power of a beginner's mindset and then the power of connecting the mindset into your body. Okay, let's go first to the power of a beginner's mindset. And what do I mean by that? Well, what does it mean to be a beginner? Like think of kids who are bringing wonder and awe, looking around and thinking, "Okay, let's test it out. Let's try it." Look at my three kids who went down the whale humps. When I said to them after that day, I'm like, "Guess what mommy did while you all were off skiing with your classes?" And I told them I did the whale humps. They're like, "Oh, that's great. Those were so fun and so easy." This is my 5, 8, and 10-year-old. And I said, "Well, how did you all go down?" They said, "Oh, my 5 and 8-year-olds, the boys, they said, "Oh, we just went. We went fast. It was like easy fun." My 10-year-old, a little more cautious, she said, "Oh, I just went straight over them, but my instructor told me you just bend your knees when you go when you go down the hill and then stand up at the top to catch yourself and then bend your knees as you go down and up and stand to catch yourself and bend your knees as you go down and up and stand to catch yourself." So she had a strategy, but she was out there testing, putting the effort in, practicing, and she knows, she might fall, she might have issues failing. She's had a kid run into her on the mountain, not on the whale humps, and sprained a thumb. But all three kids having fun, testing things out, and just letting go. So that's the beginner's mindset is open, is willing to learn, and brings a sense of wonder. Carol Dweck, a psychologist out of Stanford, and I'll link to her. I've linked to her TED Talk in the show notes. She talks about the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. And this is right in the same domain as when I'm talking about a beginner's mindset. Growth mindset means that you will put in the effort, you will challenge, you understand that you're resilient and that you can learn, versus a fixed mindset that says, what's the point? Why bother even trying? And she's done a ton of research a lot of different studies published demonstrating what happens in our brains. So, for example, when you are operating from a fixed mindset, why bother? Very little brain activity. When you are operating from a growth mindset, all throughout our brain, it's lit up. We are deeply engaging, putting in the effort to solve a problem. This is the growth mindset. We're learning. And when we're beginners, when we are embracing, embodying, taking on this beginner's mindset, then we are saying, because I have something to learn and let's try it out. When I was at Georgetown for the leadership coaching program, the very first thing we did on day one, I'm sure there were some introductions and some other things to root us in, but the intellectual thing that stood out to me, and I don't know, maybe it was the very first thing we did. They had us take out a piece of paper, me and the 29 other people in this group, and they said, write down in big letters, fill up the page, and say, I am a great coach. I'm like, great, affirmation. I'm a great coach. Flip the paper over, and now I want you to write, say big, bold letters, fill up the page. I am a beginner. And I loved this duality that yes, you can be great and feel, I am a great manager. I am a great engineer. I am a great strategist. I am a great parent. I am a great coach. Fill in the blank. And I'm a beginner. That's the growth mindset. And the beginner suggests there's more for me to learn. Okay, let's talk about the power of connecting this mindset into your body. Also at Georgetown, circa 2011, leadership coaching program. One of the requirements in this 7-month program was that you take on a body practice that's new. And we had journal prompts, things to reflect on, but mostly like in so many things, it's your job to show up for yourself and do the work to show yourself you're taking the learning seriously. Um, I had questions. What does this body practice mean? What exactly do I need to take on? What counts as new? If I ran before, but I haven't been running in a long time, could that be new? And the point is that you were taking on something in your body that when you started doing it would feel unfamiliar. And so we were allowed to choose what that might be. I had a lot of body practices from having been a 4-season athlete, played a lot of sports, um, soccer, swimming, basketball, softball. I grew up in a family that loved sports, so I had a lot of other things I got to test out and try: kayaking, canoeing. I'm an adventurous person. I got out there and tried things like surfing and skydiving. So I was thinking to myself, well, what's a body practice for me? I'm by no means expert, but I have a lot of familiarity in a lot of different places. Yoga, Pilates, I've tried these things. So I was trying to think of something that would feel like a new body practice for me back in 2011 and didn't live close to a mountain, so wasn't thinking about skiing at that time. Uh, and I thought, you know what? There is a dance studio near where I live in Washington, D.C. at the time. Why don't I try ballet? Now, I'd done ballet as like a 5-year-old. I kind of remembered intellectually positions, but I thought this is going to feel very unfamiliar and certainly unfamiliar to my adult body. And so I started going to ballet classes, and it was incredible. Uh, it was not the outcome produced by me dancing. That is not what was incredible. Let me assure you. But the experience of taking on the practice of ballet and also having, like, what was the risk? There was so much of my life at that point in time that felt high risk. Am I on track to get promoted? I was managing a big department with a big revenue goal. I was reinventing product strategy, with working with teams to do this, aligned with the goals that we had. And I just thought, there's so many parts of my life that I'm focused on the outcome, that to just focus on the process, it was an entirely different experience. And I started to notice things like the it was a very free-spirited ballet environment, and that is not always the case. So there was the rigor of, this is what it should look like and this is the practice. Um, but it also, there were some people wearing wild street clothes. We didn't have to show up and be dressed in a certain uniform. And what I remember is just, there were when I was asked to do various positions and try out these different steps in ballet, that in this class I couldn't hide what I didn't know. It would be readily apparent. And that challenged me on a lot of things, like feeling exposed, not being able to fake it. And and at the same time, I found it incredibly freeing, because guess what? What was the cost of that? What happened to me when I had to dance across the room and take a leap, and I just, like I'm just kind of stumbling my way and the leap is awkward and ungraceful? Nothing, nothing happened. There was no consequence. I could expose fully what I didn't know, and I could learn more, and I could I could just keep going and step into the challenge and embrace it. That's what happens when we put it into our body. And so I would encourage you, if you're hearing this and thinking, "Oh, this is this is intriguing. Here's a practice you could take on." Pick one new body practice. And maybe you say, for this calendar year, or for this, through the spring, I'm going to take myself through the end of winter and and through spring, and this is going to be something that I experiment with, a new body practice, and just see what you learn. Embrace the process and hold the beginner's mindset of wonder and fun and awe, and learn and just have fun with it. That's what it looks like to really let the mindset connect into your body. And if what happens, as will likely inevitably happen, you find this is awkward, or this makes me feel scared, or like me skiing on the whale humps, gosh, I'm noticing my fear of letting go and going fast. Like, whatever that thing is that shows up, then get curious. Where else is that showing up that maybe you've been able to hide because there's no exposure point, and learn from that? And that, dear listeners, is what I wanted to share with you all today. I hope that you are taking this in and thinking, here's a way that I can play with this in my own life. And and as you think about it in the design yourself context of, how is it that I can set a vision and lead with intention and act on purpose? And how is this whole embodying a beginner's mindset going to help me on that path? Well, we human beings are dynamic and changing. And so there's always going to be space for us to grow and learn and evolve. Even if you're doing something that you love, change is still coming, and growth is still possible. And embodying a beginner's mindset is going to help you in every kind of growth that you seek, and that you don't seek, and that shows up for you anyway. So, dear listeners, please know that I will be cheering for you. I will be delighted to hear from you if you want to reach out and share with me what your new practice is. If you want to leave a review and share what you're working on, I would love that. And I will be here in the meantime, holding my deeply held belief that there is nothing stopping you. So go on ahead and get after whatever it is that you really want.